TV comic Rob Delaney has spoken very honestly about his decision to have a vasectomy after he and his wife Leah realised their family was complete. He said, "I figured after all my wife and her body had done for our family, the least I could do was have a vasectomy." When many might assume the responsibility of birth control falls to the woman, is this refreshing to hear this from a man, Stacey?
Yeah. I think it's lovely. I don't know if I think the responsibility of birth control lies with the woman. I think especially in the early days of any relationship, I always expect the man to provide the birth control. You know, like
always.
Well, yeah, I would expect. I don't know if it's the generation I grew up in, or maybe I'm a bit sexist, but I would always, I mean, I don't do it a lot, but if I was ever to meet someone and I knew that maybe potentially our relationship might get to that level, I would expect that they bring a condom with. Genuinely, I wouldn't even think to bring it myself. I would totally lie that responsibility on the man. So I wouldn't think, oh, I better be on the pill because I'm in a relationship. Yeah. If things got further down the line and you know and we were still together and then we discussed it together, I'd see what our options are. But I don't feel the responsibility. I don't know what it is.
Janet,
I think
you're not.
It's more of a not just for birth control, it's more sexual diseases thing as well.
Well, yes, I agree with that, Stacey. But I was watching that drama series, I Will Destroy You, the other night, and in that, there's a real warning in that, especially, you know, to young people who I think would be the biggest audience for that drama series. The central character is having sex with a guy, you know, they haven't, you know, it's like a one-night stand, and halfway through sex, he takes off the condom and she doesn't realise. And she's later told, well, that is rape because it wasn't with her permission. I mean, personally, I went from being on the pill to HRT in a kind of seamless transition for most of my life. And yes, it's useful to have a condom, you know, but don't rely on a condom either. I don't trust men to be in charge of birth control. I want to. But what's fascinating about this whole discussion...
At all? So with any sort of man that you may well be with, you don't trust them to be in charge themselves when it comes to contraception?
No, if I'm honest, no.
OK.
I don't trust men. Why should you? I mean, no, I wouldn't trust men, no.
I suppose it depends on who you're sleeping with.
Yes, I mean, you trust people when you've been with them for years.
Yeah.
But in the first 2 or 3 weeks of a relationship, and I mean, I've gone on the record to say in a lot of my relationships, I had sex on the first date. And in that situation, no way would I trust a man. No.
At all. How about, where do you sit on this, Brenda?
Well, I went on the contraceptive pill because I was somebody who had irregular periods and heavy periods. So my doctor recommended. So I was on the pill from before I was actually having any physical sex with anybody. I was already on the pill. So, you know, for me, it was more about taking control of my body and regulating my body. Yeah. The sex part didn't even come into it. But, you know, I think back in the day, they used to say, I would carry a condom in my bag just for safety, because the other thing is I've also fallen pregnant on the pill. So there is no safeguard with the pill. There's no safeguard with the condoms.
Yeah.
And then I moved to the coil to give myself a bit more security. But I always like to take control of my contraception.
And in terms of taking control, Stacey, and vasectomies, is that a conversation that you've ever had with Joe?
It's not a conversation I've had with Joe because neither of us know if we're finished extending our family or not, so we just haven't had that discussion. But I think if it came to it and in the next few months or years we decided we both didn't want children, we would definitely have that conversation. I don't think either of us would expect the other party to have a vasectomy or for me to have my... Is it you get your tubes tied or however it is. I don't think either of us would expect that, but we would have to look at all of our options. So it would be, OK, so if we don't want any more children, are we going to use contraception for the rest of our lives? And what is that going to be?
Is that something that you're happy with? Because I've got a lot of friends who have finished having their kids and the dad has had a vasectomy because they know they don't want any more children and they don't particularly want to use any other form of contraception. So are you OK then using contraception for the rest of your relationship?
I personally would argue that it's much more for my body to take the pill for the rest of my life than it is for both of us for the male to use a condom. I would rather it be that, and I would strongly argue my case for not having to go on the contraceptive pill for a really prolonged period of time, because that's not what I would want to do. And I think that Joe would also argue his case in not having to have a vasectomy in case something went wrong, or if it ever wasn't reversible and he changed his mind. And I think they'd both be valid arguments. So to me, the only thing left really would be either, I think, the coil without a hormone or a condom, and we just have to suck it up.
Yeah.
By the way, there are a lot of older men who perhaps should be having vasectomies. Bernie Ecclestone's 89, and he's just his latest wife's having another baby, and Fabiana, she's 44.
Well, it's up to them if they want to have more
Well,
children.
maybe
Come on,
I
Janet.
could have a baby, as the oldest mother in the world is 74, so I've still got 6 months
Plenty
to
of
go.
time. Plenty of time for that to happen.
Fill your boots, Janet.
Yeah, and Stacey you can be godmum.
Please, that just make my life.
Totally.